Well, I'm delighted to be joined by Dr. Lindsey Campbell this morning, who works for Harman Technologies in Cheshire. She's the Health and Environment Manager. And basically...
And safety.
And safety. That's good. Right. Health, Safety and Environment Manager. Is that right, Lindsey?
That's right.
Do excuse me. So basically, the issue here is that Lindsey's been responsible for returning her workforce to work in a safe, controlled environment. And we really think there's lessons here for a lot of people in this. So I'm delighted Lindsey's agreed to talk us through this morning. And what's the first slide, Lindsey? Please start enlightening us.
Okay, so we, when lockdown in the UK started, we made the difficult decision to close our factory and most of our operations because we had a lot of staff that needed a shield, and it just wasn't possible to keep things open and keep things running. And when we got to the point that we were ready to start thinking about starting production again, we needed to think how we were going to make the site safe for staff to come back to, and how we were going to keep our staff safe. Now, at this time, in the British media, probably the worldwide media, there was an awful lot about hospital staff and those staff on the front line of dealing with the virus, and the issues of PPE. And we knew that there were also a lot of supply issues with PPE. But this is, that's the one term that a lot of people were hearing on the media. So I think there was a lot of assumption that PPE was going to be the answer to all of our problems. But when it comes to health and safety, and when it comes to risk management, just like this triangle you can see here, PPE is the last resort. It's the last thing that you do. And you only use PPE if you fail to control the risks in other ways. So this was really my project management plan for how I was going to get people back to work safely.
How many employees, Lindsey?
How many people?
Yeah.
Just under 200.
Oh, it's a fair size operation then.
Yes, yeah, and we've got lots of different plants. We've got lots of different processes. So we've got R&D function. We make our own chemicals, and then we go through processes to make black and white film and paper products for the black and white film industry.
So do you want to talk us through this slide, Lindsey? That would be useful.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
We're starting off here with elimination, are we?
That's right. So the first thing that we want to do is to stop the virus from coming onto site, or stop the virus from spreading from person to person. So the first way that you do that is exactly what our government did, and it was to tell people to stay at home. So the first thing that we did was work out how many of our staff could actually work from home and didn't need to come onto site at all. We also started having all meetings online. Even if we were on site, we would still not meet together, but meet online, just like you and I are doing today. And that was very much the first step. Let's not even get people near to each other. And then the next step was to make sure that even if people were coming onto site, that the virus couldn't come onto site.
So this is engineering controls.
Say that again, John?
This is engineering controls.
No, we're still on elimination. This is the first step. We're still on elimination. We're still just stopping the virus from coming onto site. Again, the government controls that if you think you've got the virus, then you don't leave your house and you stay isolated. And that is still the first step for us. But if you move on to the next slide, you can actually see this elimination piece actually at work on my site. So this is the entrance to Harman Technology. You can see there we've got a sign that we've put temperature check stations in place. So if you're a visitor to site, we've got signage reminding you that you shouldn't be here if you're unwell. And then what you will do is you'll go in into that area, and you'll get a temperature check. For the staff themselves, they came down to this area, which we set up, so that on a morning at the beginning of a shift, before they actually went into a workplace, then they would have a temperature check. Now, ultimately, this temperature check, that they could do that at home, but these staff were really concerned about coming back to work and concerned that we were making the place safe for them. So apart from anything else, it was reassurance for them that we were doing the right thing and that we had these controls in place.
Such a simple
thing.
You
can see that still at the end of the video there. You can just see on the lampposts there. The other thing that we've done all over site is it is just to highlight, remind people of the kind of things they ought to be doing, the washing their hands, the hygiene, and staying safe. So we've got these messages kind of repeated across site.
Do you want to go back to the previous slide now?
No, we can go on.
On to the next,
So that was the first
that was that the video. Yep. Oh, I'll see. Yep. Got you. Got you.
So once we'd done that, the next step was to think about engineering controls. And these are the physical things that we can do, the way that we can change the workplace physically to enable the virus to not spread and to minimize any potential virus. So the first thing we do again is to take people out of the equation. So we've reduced our working teams down as much as possible. And we've made sure that people kind of work in clusters, just like we're doing in schools, and have people working in a small bubble and just working on one area of site and not moving between buildings wherever possible. We've also, wherever we've needed them, we've put screens in place just to divide up areas, sneeze guards, I think they're calling them now. And we've also laid out, as you've probably seen in supermarkets, laid out 2 meter distancing, put markers on the floor to remind people, one-way systems we've used as well. And in some areas where you know that you're going to have a lot of people, we've got hold points in place so that you can kind of stop and take stock and see what you're doing. And on some corridors, we've actually had to come up with little lay-bys or passing places.
To ensure the distancing, yeah.
Yes, just to give people somewhere to go so that they can stay apart from each other. Canteens, we've reduced down the number of stations that we've got as well, and wherever possible, we've reorganised people so that they don't need to be near each other.
So have you done separation in time as well as separation in distance? So people eat lunch at different times, people start work at different times?
Yeah, staggered breaks and that kind of thing. Yes, we've done that, and staggered start times as well, just so we don't have people queuing up.
So you have less people in any one place at any one time?
Yes, that's right, yeah. And while the weather's been nice as well, we've been able to use outdoor areas for meetings and things.
Which is very pleasant, of course.
It is when it's not raining, but we are in Cheshire, so there is a lot of rain as well.
Indeed.
It's of limited use.
Which is in northern England, I think we should let people know.
Yes.
It does rain a bit here, yeah, absolutely.
It does, yeah.
Where should we go? Should we go? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
If you want to play the video, then you can see some of these measures in place as well.
So we need to go on to the next. Oh, this is the next one. Yep. Play that.
Yeah. So we realised that the clocking in machines were an area where the virus could really spread from one card to another. So we've taken those out of use at the moment. You can see here a large area that we've marked out to make sure that if we are having a briefing, we've put screens up. But people have to stand on the markers so they don't get too near. This is the canteen area, or one of our canteens. You can see we've put a divide up there so that we can have 2 people both preparing meals at the same time.
Are these just perspex divides?
Just perspex, yeah. Yeah. And we've used other materials as well. Perspex is quite difficult to get hold of. We have a classroom there that we've reorganised so that we can still get people in, and we've got some new picnic benches.
Lovely.
Only 2 people can sit there. we've got these door operators to open and close doors, so we don't have to touch the door furniture.
I like it.
So it's quite a big site, so there's been a lot to think about. We've also issued all of the staff with little metal door handling devices, like a little hook, so that people have got lots of options to help just reduce the high touch areas, really.
Absolutely. And is there regular cleaning protocols for high touch areas as well?
Oh yes, absolutely. Yeah. We'll come. I'll show you the cleaning in a minute.
Next slide.
Yeah. So if we're going down our hierarchy of controls,
like it.
So next we've got what we call administrative controls. These are the things like the rules and the routines. These are the things that we need to rely on people to remember to do, that we have to tell them to do them. An engineering control, once it's in place, you can't really override it. Once we've got a screen there, it's there. So it's safer than having to rely on an individual to remember something.
So this is changing of the or adding to the physical infrastructure, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. And these administrative controls are about asking staff to act in a certain way and to manage their time and their space for themselves in certain ways. So we've got hygiene stations at the entrance to every building. Again, if we did get a case of COVID in a building, then we wouldn't want that to spread to the rest of site, so that we could limit the spread if we did get it. And again, we have social distancing. We can't necessarily stop people from being together if they choose to be, but we have these administrative controls, these rules in place, if you like, that prevent that.
And we're in a work-based discipline situation here, aren't we? If the boss says do it, basically you have to do it. It's
Yes, and people want to. The will is there for people to do it. People do genuinely want to stay safe. They've got families at home that they want to go back to. They've got elderly relatives who are shielding. So the will really is there. Yeah, and they're a good engaged workforce, I have to say.
Excellent.
If you'd like to see the video, then you can see some of these other controls we've got in place.
Yeah, let's go for that.
So as you come up to a building, we've put these mats outside and they've got disinfectant in them. Any sneezes, eventually the droplets will end up on the floor. You see here we've got numbered stations. This is where people will queue up in order to use the hygiene station, where they can use hand gel. If they want to pick up any masks or gloves, they can do so. And you can see we've got these standing men, lots of reminders for people to remind them what they need to do. There we've got the 2-meter marking on the way into the canteen. And again, another hand wash station there. We have had some areas, obviously, where we could use soap and water, which is better. But a lot of these areas, this is, it's an additional measure that we've made. We've got 2-way markings in some of those corridors to make sure that people can stay separate as much as possible. And that's a hold point, so you can just kind of stop and assess what's going on before you actually move forward. This corridor has lots of doors on, so you need to be communicating.
So you can see that before you actually enter the corridor, can't you?
That's right. And this is a one-way system, you can see there. So we've got the staff coming in one way and going out a different way. And we're at the bottom of the stairs, so there's another hold point just there as well.
It's very much taking these general principles and applying them to your specific work environment, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's a book of rules. There's a passing place. This is a long, thin corridor, so we just opened up the admin door, and that's where we go. We put mirrors in place on blank corners, again, just to avoid people knocking into each other. And if you see that little traffic cone there, that is an indicator when you go to use that loo. You just kick that cone across, and then everyone knows there's someone in there, and they don't go in.
What about sanitisation within the toilet?
Well, we've got hot water and we've got soap, and we use disposable towels. We were using the reusable cotton blue roll towels, and we've taken those out of use for this, so that we're just using disposable now.
And what about cleaning surfaces?
Cleaning surfaces, so we've got sprays. All staff have to spray down surfaces after use. They need to, in kitchen areas, they need to clean down the kettle and the fridge and everything that they use, they clean down. We also have our cleaning team are cleaning down a lot more often. And we do have one of these fogging systems that we can use as well, just to get areas disinfected. Of course, the fogging's great, but it doesn't actually clean things, but it does kill the virus.
That's fogging with an antiseptic.
Yeah, it's a disinfectant spray. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. And so basically people clean up after their own droplets.
They do, yeah, absolutely, yeah, and it's working very well. You know, we policed it to start with, but it's very quickly becomes second nature for people.
So if people use the toilet for defecation, are they told to lower the lid prior to flushing?
No, we had a long, hard think about this, and we didn't, because the research shows that you're more likely to spread the virus through hand to mouth than you are through any fecal matter that might rise up.
Oh, the aerosol.
So I considered that actually having people touching the toilet lid and putting it down and picking it up, you are more likely to spread the virus, particularly women who, while they're in a cubicle, will quite often blow their nose or wipe their faces with tissues. So I took the decision that it was far safer to just leave that alone, and there would be less likelihood of spread then.
But I like the way you've done that in context of the research.
Yes, absolutely.
You made a decision based on the research that's available.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Where do we go next, Lindsey? Next slide.
Yes, yeah, we're still working down this hierarchy.
Yep.
So when nothing else works, then we do have PPE as a last resort. But the health and safety executive and the health and safety community and the government themselves are saying that, you know, really, if you need to resort to masks, then you haven't done enough, basically. So clearly we're in industrial process, and we do have some processes that require the use of PPE to protect our staff from the processes and from the materials that they're handling. But it isn't necessary to stay safe from the coronavirus on our site. That said, that there's still a psychological element here of people feeling that they're safe. So we do have face coverings. I'm not calling them masks, because on our site, masks serve a different purpose. They stop contaminants from coming into someone. The face coverings, as I know from your lectures, the face coverings stop the virus from actually getting out and spreading that way. So we have those available for those people that want to use them, and a few do use them, and it makes them feel more confident to be working in the workplace. But really, we haven't needed to implement that, except as part of an emergency protocol. For example, our first aiders, they may need to breach social distancing to give someone treatment. So we've put together, I think it's in the last video actually, we've put together supplementary first aid kits that have got PPE in there to use. And again, we've got AED devices on site, and again, the rules for using AEDs have changed.
This is the automatic defibrillators for restarting.
That's right, yes. Yeah.
Hopefully you won't need to use that, but it's always nice to know that they're there, of course.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So having taken these things into account, do you find that you have lowered the anxiety of the workforce and that they are happy to come back to work? Is happy too strong a word, or do you think you've achieved
that?
No,
the feedback has been great. what we did in preparation was we showed a lot of these measures. We put together a video and let the staff see them and let the staff share those with their families. And actually, the feedback was that their families in other organisations hadn't gone to the lengths that we'd gone. And it did give them a lot of confidence. They really felt that we'd made a difference and that we'd done our best for them. And the knock-on effect has been that when we've asked the staff to work flexibly and to stagger their breaks and to stagger their start and finish times, they've been happy to do that because they're willing to, to go the extra mile themselves, because that's what we've done for them. So yeah, it's been really successful so far.
You can see it's a collaborative effort, everyone working together.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. Now, suppose there was someone who tested positive.
Yeah.
What would be your strategy and protocol for that?
Okay. Someone doesn't even have to test positive. If someone feels ill, or we've actually had a case where someone had a call during the day from their wife at home saying that she felt unwell and she was going to go for a test. At that point, we sent that individual home, and we sent his immediate work team home, and we closed off that area. So wherever possible, what we will do is just close the doors for 72 hours, and then we will fog the area.
What are you fogging it with?
We're using there are quite a few proprietary systems out there. So it's a pressurized container that contains a disinfectant that is known to be effective against coronavirus. So we just use that. Our cleaning staff can go in there, and it's a long lance, so they don't need to get near any surfaces, and they can just sweep the area and then just walk away, and within half an hour it's safe to go back into that area.
And for the disinfectants, you're just using normal proprietary disinfectant brands?
We're just using proprietary brands, but we're using the ones that have the active ingredients that are effective. Not all of the cleaning materials that say that they're antibacterial are going to be effective against a coronavirus. So we've done that research, and we now have a list. So I work with our cleaning team to make sure that we're buying effective materials.
And then you just follow what it says on the instructions.
Yes, absolutely. That's it.
Manufacturer's recommendations. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, and leaving spray on surfaces for 15, 20 seconds, just the same as with your hand washing, because that's how long it takes to really be effective.
Yeah. Have we got another video here?
You see there one of our AEDs, and that's our supplementary kit that I've put into place, along with all of the additional instructions that St John's Ambulance have issued. We've got a cloth there because, again, if you're going to do heart massage, then you need a cloth over the face, which is additional rules that have come out for first aiders.
Hopefully that's an unlikely circumstance, but it's good to know that's accounted for. Yeah. Have we got another slide, or is that us?
No, that's us. That's
excellent.
That's all of my evidence for you.
It sounds like what you've done is you've taken these general principles of infection control and containment, and you have made a bespoke adaptation of that to your specific work environment. And as a result of that, you've generated an environment which is as safe as it could possibly be. And the thing I particularly like is you've taken your workforce with you.
Yes.
They understand it. They understand the need for it. And therefore they're prepared in return to offer you the flexibility.
Yes.
That allows them to carry on with their employment.
We didn't get the workplace 100% right before the staff came back. We actually brought the staff back a few days before they were expected to start production, so that they could look around the workplace themselves and come up with their own solutions for the issues that were remaining. And that way they were bought into it. It was their ideas that we were using and taken on board as well. And that meant that they were they were very happy with what we put into place.
Yeah, they were very much stakeholders.
Still,
yeah.
Still every day, we've got, the phone lines are open, the emails open, and staff are interacting with us and giving us ideas, and this isn't set in stone. We're gonna keep on developing. We're certainly not going to reduce down from our 2 meters to 1 meter, because 2 meters is safer. But we will continually develop as staff have ideas and as we work out the right way of working.
Yeah, and of course, staff know their own environment where they've worked perhaps for a decade or more. They know it better than anyone, and are in a position to, as once you explain the principles to them, they can adapt that to their local situation.
Yes, I mean the masks scenario was a key point, actually, because the staff were coming back saying we want masks. And it was just a little bit of education about, what a mask is for and what a mask does, versus what a face covering does, and why that wouldn't be necessary in this case. And once they'd had that education and they understood, then they were quite happy that we were keeping them safe by other means.
I think that's vital. You are explaining the principles to your workforce. I think that's absolutely critical. You've moved forward together. This is a collaborative effort. And I think this is a model, so some specific ideas there, but this philosophy is a model which can be followed by workplaces all around the world, and can allow people to return to economic activity. So,
absolutely.
So yeah. by implementing the principles and the specifics that you've discussed in this video, I think countries can make untold billions of pounds more than they would have done otherwise. So I just hope people acknowledge that and realise that and give you the credit that that you're due for that. So thank you, Lindsey, very much for that. That's absolutely fascinating. I'm sure we'll get a lot of feedback from this. And there's been tragic cases of outbreaks, for example. I mean, meat processing plants have been a classic one. And, I'm sure if we parachuted you into some of those places, you could apply these principles into that situation. And make those workplaces much safer.
We've learned from those tragic cases as well. We've learned, the things that have gone wrong. We do have cold stores and freezers on our site as well, and it has forced us to think, well, what if, and what extra measures do we need here? So we learn from tragedies as well, and try and
learn from the mistakes of others.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's great, Lindsey. Thank you very much. We'll put that on and see. I'm sure you'll get some dazzling feedback on that.
Oh, I'm sure.
So I certainly found that fascinating. So thank you very much.
All right.
Thanks.